Why hello YouTube, this is Baylor Mage again, and it's been another 7 days, so it's a new character, but today we're bringing my favorite character so far, my favorite build so far, and my favorite mechanic so far, which is full screen chain explosions. I think just looking at it speaks for itself. It's also got a pretty goddamn good amount of single target, and it's moderately tanky right now. I am still on somewhat of a budget. It's worth saying, total head to toe on the character in the background here, I've spent 2 full div and about 150x. So that's like the total cost right now. Obviously, I'm liking this one enough. I'm going to invest a fuck into it. Actually, since then, I've added a 6 link, which costs a lot, and I just put a level 20 gem in, which costs a lot, but that is not in the footage in the background there. So, this is a monk. This is an Ice Strike monk, which so far has been my favorite monk attack. This is technically Baylor playing melee, so let's jump into the game. Alright. So here we are, we just hit level 90. I actually haven't even gone and done my own Uber lab yet, which I will definitely go and do tomorrow. We do have the critical hits ignore and the chilled ground stuff for now, and this thing to get all of our spirit. But our chest is our leftover chest from the Pathfinder, which already has spirit on it, and its numbers aren't even that high. So that's some leftover stuff. This came out of a dump tab. That came out of a dump tab. It doesn't even have good movement speed in it. This one was also leftover from my Pathfinder. But the big question that everyone's going to ask is, how are we getting full screen chain explosions? And the answer is Herald of Ice mixed with a unique ring. Now, Herald of Ice is now an attack. It is an attack gem. It's an attack thing. It scales off your weapon damage and everything, but we have that linked with magnified effect, long shot, ambush, and cold mastery, because the chain explosion happens far away from you. The mobs are always on for life because it's chaining out to things you haven't hit yet, and we want it to have as much area as possible. That's the explosion. However, Herald of Ice can't freeze. It's just baked into the gem. Herald of Ice can't freeze. Things need to be frozen to be shattered. That's where this absolute beautiful ring comes in, with a name nobody can pronounce. Polycycrolin Sapphire Ring. You nailed it. The important part here is the bottom line. Enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as though frozen. That's the whole interaction. While Herald of Ice can't freeze something, it can and does chill things. So with just that on its own, everything that gets hit by Herald of Ice is instantly chilled. And as long as the Herald of Ice chain kills it, which it does, it then in turn explodes, chills more mobs near it, which it also kills, that then continue that chain until you run out of mobs. So that is the whole interaction. Now, as far as build guides go, I will go through some of my gems, but I have to say I'm still experimenting heavily. I've looked at as many monk builds as I possibly can. I've redone my tree. I've redone a bunch of things. Anything could change between now and tomorrow. So we're going to go broad strokes. I do have a Mobalytics link. Scryer or Ziz on Ziz's channel has a leveling guide for a very similar build that is not CI. It's doing things a little bit differently, but that is the leveling tree that I used. That's the leveling guide that I used. I will link that down below as well. If you want to level this character, copy that leveling tree, and if you want to copy what I'm doing, spec into that later. So real quick, you'll notice where CI. Of course, why would I not be immune to chaos? I do only have 4k energy shield. I think I will eventually get that up to about maybe 6 at most. I think 6 will be the top end, but that still overflows to 12, so I'm not real worried. But this is how our tree looks. We do like the stats. We're a little bit stat starved. Otherwise, we also use a ton of mana. It is worth noting that right now I have a spirit gem in that I absolutely don't need. I'm using a cast on freeze to apply Sniper's Mark because I'm lazy. That shouldn't be in there. That should not be in there. And the only reason I can afford it is because of this stupidly expensive jewel, which was left over from my minion build. You're not going to have this jewel. You don't need this jewel. You don't even really want this jewel. And you don't need the cast on freeze. A Hand of Chayula would do the same thing, except you could also put a curse on it. And you never need to press it anyway. This was actually a waste. This was an experiment, so don't worry about that. So, we're going to go into a few of the questions that got asked on stream a lot. And then I just want to preface this. This is not a build guide. We will have a build guide when we actually figure out what's going on. But for now, just so that you know the mechanics. So we're CI/evasion hybrid. However, we do need power charges. Charged staff is like a secondary backup attack. Consumes all power charges to infuse your quarterstaff with electricity, adding lightning damage and lightning shockwave to your quarterstaff attacks. So the little blue lightning projectile that fires out when I do my melee attack, that's coming from this. Which also, I don't need cold exposure anymore. That was an old link from when I wasn't ignoring resistances. But that gives me stuff like lightning infusion, conductivity, more shocks, it procs innovate. You can put utility stuff on here like blind and maim, things like that. There's tons of stuff we could do here, but we need to generate power charges. We need to do that easily, especially easily because I'm lazy and I don't like anything that's way too complicated. So how do we do that? Combat Frenzy. Gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute, or pin an enemy no more than once every whatever seconds. Do that mixed with this one. Gain a power charge instead of a frenzy charge. That's it. That's the whole mechanic. As we attack stuff, we freeze often, we freeze all the time. It gives us power charges. We consume the power charges for charged staff. Charged staff has a pretty good duration. We don't have to press it very often. It's great. In fact, we have charges in abundance. So what do we do with our extra charges? We use charge infusion. 18% more critical hit chance while you have a power charge. So we suck up the power charges for the charged staff, and then we get more power charges, which we don't need to use. Charged infusion just passively gives us 18% more critical hit chance. So that's great. As far as supports, I do have all the supports listed in the Mobalytics that I will link below, but I have been changing these so rapidly and so many times a day trying to figure out the best set that I'm not 100% sure it's even a good idea to share them, but I'm going to. But know that these could change at any point. I am still definitely working them out. So, for my Ice Strike, I have Conk, Martial Tempo, Cold Infusion, Primal Armaments, and Ice Bite. For our Tempest Bell, which is absolutely fantastic, we have Heft, Overabundance, Close Combat, and Heavy Swing. And for our charge staff, we don't need that cold exposure anymore, but Lightning Infusion, Conductivity, and Innovate. Herald of Ice, which is the other important one. This is mandatory. Magnified Effect, absolutely mandatory. Long Shot, definitely staying in. And Ambush, definitely staying in. The last one is actually just Cold Mastery, which doesn't make a huge damage increase. It's maybe somewhere around the 12% mark. So getting a 5th link on that, not super important. We are running Grim Feast, like always. Because I have extra spirit right now, I'm running Herbalism, but that's not important. We do have Wind Dancer. It is important to quality your Wind Dancer, so you get a 4th stack. Those give you more evasion per stack. That's how our evasion is so high. We're at 80% chance to dodge right now, so that's great. I have Profusion and Clarity with the Combat Frenzy, and Precision with the Charged Fusion, which I also don't need. it's not important. We're just using up that extra spirit for now. But that is just an update of what we're doing on stream. This has been absolutely fantastic. I am going to invest in this build more than I have in the last two. I have found the build I want to stay with for at least an extra week. Get this guy into a much, much, much better state. Very much enjoying it. Cannot express how fun this is. Also, this ring is quite cheap. So I think it's 25x last time I saw it. So yeah, absolutely get into that. If you don't like the idea of this build, just use that Herald of Ice and the ring tech on anything that you can get. Any attack build that can use Herald of Ice can use the same tech. This is not going to be Monk exclusive. This is just a great tech to use on any build that you could possibly get your hands on. At least any attack build. All right. That is all I have. I will see everybody next time. Bye-bye.